The next part of my database design that I'll be talking about is the abiotic feature classes and fields. And so these were the ones that were collected collected online from databases belonging to NOAA and the USGS. And so you can see that these abiotic inputs are connected to the plot ID and the plot attribute table through the plot ID, excuse me. And again, the data that is important, or that I feel is important to understand when connecting to soil assay and vegetation sort of abundance, is rainfall, temperature, slope, and aspect. Now, I kind of sense that rainfall and temperature, looking at the data from NOAA, is not sensitive enough to get a difference from plot to plot. So most of the plots will have the same rainfall and temperature information, but the slope and aspect will be different between plots. And also importantly, the rainfall and temperature will be different depending on the month that that data was recorded. And so with that, I'm able to compare the rainfall and temperature data from any given month to the month that the soil assays were taken from. And so I can have an analysis that's both spatially and temporally sensitive. The last piece of my database design that I'll be talking about is the observation or information segment of the design. And so as you can see, the observation or information attribute table, the primary key for that is the observation ID. Now, for soil assay features, each nutrient or assay is for each time point in each plot is given its own unique observation ID. And for the vegetation survey, each species at each time point and at each plot gets its own observation ID. So every single observation literally gets its own observation ID. And this observation ID is connected to the way in which the observation was taken, the date at which the observation was recorded or assayed, and finally the physical conditions of the environment at the time. What this helps me to do is to keep track of when these data were taken, and so I can create an analysis where I can see not only the difference in nitrogen level or phosphorus level or grass abundance between plots, but I can also see how they change over time. And I strongly believe that the biggest change that we'll see is not necessarily the absolute values of the differences between the treatments, but how these changes change over time and how they change differently. The last thing that I wanted to include in this is a way to assess observation quality. Like I said before, I wasn't the only one doing the assays, and so if I notice that anything is different or anything is weird in the data, I can track back to who did it with the observer group, and then go back to them and ask if something had gone wrong or if there was anything that might be influencing the data, and that's also seen here in the quality of observation field. And so in summary, my database design is really focused on two main features: the plot centricity of the database design, which allows for analysis between treatment plots, and also the second feature of my database design is the observation or information segment, which helps me account for two things. It helps me to account, one, for time so that I can make temporal analyses, but also it helps me account for data quality. And that's my database design for USC and for San Diego State for my thesis. And I thank you. Thank you for listening.